Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to be talking about decals. Now if you've been around Unreal Engine, some of the things that I'm going to talk about are going to be very basic for you, but stick around, you might learn something new. Now if you want to get this project that I'm going to be using right here, you can go to your Epic launcher, go to the Learn tab, and it should be here in the ArcViz interior. Just click on that one. If not, you may be able to find it on the marketplace if you're watching this video in the future and it's no longer featured over there. This is a free project that you can open yourself, and the point of this project is to mostly teach about lighting, but I'm going to be using to talk about decals. Now I am going to make a video about lighting and ray tracing and going in depth into how to get good lighting, good dynamic lighting. So stay tuned for that. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you can be notified when that video comes out. Now let's get back to our project. If you open that project that I just told you, you're gonna see it's fully furnished. So what I did is I just got rid of a bunch of stuff and I added some stuff that you're seeing here. This is not part of the project if you go and open that. So there's a paper, there's some debris in the floor, this painting that looks real aged, there's a crack in this wall that wasn't there when I got this project, and there's a crack over here. So this apartment is falling apart. What I'm using here are decals, and these is a very good way to give some extra texturing to your environment without having to go into the program and actually texture. So let me turn on the editor view, and as you can see I have a bunch of these. So let's just get one of the decals. So when you go into Bridge, and we're going to be using the Megascans that we've been doing so far, you're gonna go into decals, and there's a bunch of things that you can find over on decals. And one recommendation that I'm going to give you when using decals, you don't have to get the material or the decal that's specific to what you're doing. For instance, this let me go back to my project. This crack right here, that's an asphalt crack, so it's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be part of a street, but I just made it part of the wall, and actually looks really nice on the wall. So that's just a recommendation overall. You don't have to stick to, if you're doing street, you don't have to stick to street assets. You can use other assets, mix and match. That's one of the best things about Quixel Bridge and what you can do with the Megascans. Now, when you download these, you're gonna see that there's no mesh. They're just images, image maps, and they come with an opacity. That's why it's kind of like this, and you can just select your resolution. As I've said before, 4K for games. Usually in decals you want to keep it to 2K so it's not so heavy on the system, but for now I'm just going to keep it to 2K because it's fun. And you export it out to your project. Now when you see it in your project, you're not going to see it as decals, you're going to see it as atlases. So if I go into Megascan folder, you're gonna see that I have atlases, I don't have decals. So just so you don't freak out when you export, you're not going to find a decal folder. It's gonna be named atlases. Now if I go inside here, I downloaded a bunch. Let's do wooden tracks. So open, and what you're gonna get is this material right here. That's a good thing. The decal is already made for you. It used to be that you had to make these in Unreal if you're going to do your customs, but it's right here for you. So I'm going to bring it over here just to show you how it looks. First of all, they're huge for some reason. They're not up to scale. This is probably an exterior asset, and that's why it's so huge. But what you're seeing here is you're gonna see this little icon that looks like a sticker, hence the decal thing. And you're gonna see that this also has an arrow. The reason for this arrow is because what the decals are is just a box projection of a map. So that's why it has an opacity map, so you don't see the background of these maps. And all it does is it creates a box. So this whole thing, as you can see, it's a box that is projecting, hence the arrow, into your asset, into whatever your asset is. And you can project it into various different types of asset. But again, it is a box projection. So you have to be careful with that. And the reason why you have to be careful with the arrow is because if I go, let's say I go a little bit to the right here, you're gonna see that there's some stretching over here. The reason why you're seeing some stretching here is because this box projection is trying to project it on a planar fashion over on the floor, and everything that's not looking directly this way, so this geometry is facing on another way, it's going to be looking very weird and very stretchy. So think of it, if you're a 3D artist and you've done some texturing, whenever you do not unwrap something, you apply textures to it, it looks weird like this. So the reason is this map doesn't know where to go on this wall, and that's why it's doing that. So bear in mind that you need to follow your arrow. Actually, if you do 180, you're gonna see that there's nothing there, it's black, it's horrible, because you need to follow your arrow. Okay, there's that. Now there are two ways that you can scale this asset. One way is using the regular scale. So if let's say I tap here 0.4, you're gonna see that my asset disappeared. The reason why my asset disappears is because I'm scaling on the 3 axis and my box got smaller on the height as well. So I need to just bring it down, and there it is. Okay, so that's one of the things about this asset is that you can, I'm talking about decals, you can try to look for something that if you wanted to blend with the environment, let's say something like this, and you wanted to blend with the terrain, then you could do a little bit of pull it out, or you can just, if you want the asset to be completely projected onto your geometry, make sure that you are at this distance. So this is one of the effects that you can get with decals. It's really cool that you cannot achieve by just texturing. There's a couple of things right here, but let's go over the scaling. So you can also scale here. So if I wanted to scale like this or like this, that's another way to do it. There is something here called fade screen size. So if I increase this, you're gonna see that my asset disappears. This is used mostly for in-game deals. So you can see that disappear, and all I'm telling it is project this decal as soon as I'm at a certain distance from it. The reason for that is because decals, if you have a bunch of them around, they can be very expensive. They can be a resource hog. So this is one way. Like, let's say this decal was way over there where this city is, then I would configure my fade screen size to that, so the player will see it as long as he is close enough to see that decal. Otherwise, just leave that as it is. Now let's go into the material. If you go into the material, you're gonna see it's a little bit different than the materials that we've been looking so far in the channel. But you got something new here. You got Parallax. Parallax Occlusion is a trick, kind of like normal maps, but it's not normal maps. It's something that the engine uses to create the illusion of depth. So it's not like displacement, where displacement is actual geometry that's being created. It's more of an illusion kind of deal, and it doesn't work with every single one. So if I do this, let's see. I activated my parallax. Let's see if we can spot any differences here. So you can see this actually gives depth to the wood that's right here. So if I turn it off, completely flat. If I turn it on, it gives a little bit of depth, and you can mess with the values right here. You can increase the height, and it looks weird. I usually leave it on the default values because that's how this particular decal was created, and unless you have your custom decal, I would definitely leave it as the default values. All right, so there's that, and it's compiling this shader. Now let's see these papers right here. I'm actually going to delete one, and one of the things, which one? There's a burned paper that actually the parallax was really good. I think it's this one right here. So if we select this one, let's bring it over to kind of like a cleaner floor. All right. So this was a very good example of the parallax. So if we go to the material, you can see that I'm using the parallax, and have a look at the raised edges. If I turn it off, see what happens. See, those raised edges are not as visible as if I'm using the POM. So that's what it does. That's one of the things about the decals that you can use that's pretty fun to use whenever you're trying to add decals to whatever geometry. So the other thing that you can use the decals for is you can stack them together. So let's say if I wanted to have a bunch of garbage around with these papers, I can just rotate them and pull them out. Let's just play with these two. So what I did is I just pull one out. So they're pretty much one on top of the other. But let's say I have a bunch of these and I wanted to like stack them in a certain specific way. I can select one and use the sort order to make it stack in a specific way. So for now you can see that this paper is kind of like on top of this paper, but let's say I wanted this paper to be on top of this. I will go make sure I have this paper selected, and I will go and type 1, and you can see now that this paper is actually on top of this paper, even though they are 100% on the same plane. Because as you can see, let me do that again so you guys can see. I just hold Alt allows you to duplicate an object once you pull it. So I'm pulling it out in this direction. That means it's exactly in the same axis right now. But if I were to use the sort order and add a number, you can see that actually now this paper is on top of this paper. So that's one of the things that you can do if you're trying to stack and you don't want them to be on top of each other. You don't want that C fighting. This is a good way to kind of stack your decals. And another thing that I want to show you is you can use decals on various different surfaces. So this painting has a translucent surface, which is this square right here. If I turn it off, this is actually the painting. Turn it on. This is kind of like, imagine if you have one of those paintings, you put a glass on top to protect it. This is what that is. And what I did is I just added a leakage decal to it, and I rescale it to fit this, and it makes this look really all like it's been there for a while and nobody has to take care of that. So if I turn that off, you can see how it changes. So you can use your decals in various different ways. Alright, that was that quick video just talking a little bit about decals and how to use them. They're all available in Bridge in the Megascans. And I'll be talking about lighting in my next project, so make sure you stick around, subscribe, like, leave me your comments down below. Some of you usually leave me some comments and ideas on what new videos to make, and it's actually really interesting because there's something that I haven't thought of before, so I get to look it up and make a video about it, and I learned about it too. So it's really cool when you guys leave me comments down in that section. Again, make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you in the next video.